there was a tremendous number of training scars being created by products and by processes that would lead a firefighter to do something in an actual door that wouldn't actually work out. It was one of the things that really made me think about, if I'm gonna build a door, how should it go together and what should it look like? Because the reality is, what you don't wanna do at the end of the day is create a bunch of training scars on guys who are going out to save lives, right? You wanna make sure that they have everything that they need and that what they're about to do is gonna replicate as close as possible to real life. And I think that's one of the reasons that really drove me to think about building a door that was, one, full size, right? So that, one, the guys, if we built walls around it and such, they couldn't see around it, right? It actually helped kind of keep the mystery. Hey, what am I gonna find behind there? Am I gonna set up a scenario where there's a rescue to do or a fire, right? So you build the door full size, and then you make sure that like they can work the door top to bottom, because on a real door, you can work top to bottom. When we built the door, we really were after the heart to create something that they could get in here and go to work and not worry about, like, where did they engage the door at? Top, bottom, middle, whatever. We can use all the tools on it, right? So we can use Halligans, axes, rams. We can use hydraulic tools. We can go ahead and make some adaptions, use shotguns, kinetic breaching tools. We can even do explosive breach through it. So there's a ton of opportunity that the door creates because of its design to be able to go out and do the evolution you need to do. So as we put the door together, it was really important for us to create as many realistic pieces of that puzzle as possible, right? Like, why do we put a deadbolt and a doorknob on there? Because there's probably one on the front door that you're about to breach, right? Why is that important? Because sometimes you can use those as leverage or fulcrum points. What my number one goal is to get you guys through the door, to get to the rescue, to get to the fire, to save someone's life. But secondarily, to not create any training scars on your way towards that evolution, right? And that's, I mean, you can think about the little things that we do, from putting life, layout, and lift on our doors. Why does any door manufacturer do that? Because the heart of that door manufacturer is not just to sell you a door. It's actually that when you go through that door, because that's the entrance to the dance, that you guys actually are going to look for life. You're gonna drop a knee, get low, look at the layout of that building. You're gonna look at the lift. What's my fire doing? Because if you don't do those things, right, then just forcing a door, that's not really, it's a great skill to have, but it's not the skill at the end of the day. It's the rescue that's the skill at the end of the day. It's an 80-inch tall, 36-inch wide door, right? But you can get these things 32 or 30 inches wide, because I guarantee your basement door ain't 36 inches wide, right? So you got a bunch of variations in that space, right? And then we make it so you can't like see through it, right? Add walls to the sides of it. Obviously, if you just put it in the middle of a field, it's gonna look like any door sitting in the middle of a field, right? We also wanna make it so there's variable levels of training, right? Because we have probationary employees who, they don't know a lot about how to do what they do. So they need to start off with like one dowel maybe, so they can learn how to cam on an inward opening door. They can learn how to pull an outward opening door. But as they progress, as they get better, they need bigger challenges, right? So we continue to evolve with them as their training evolves. And so now we go to 2 or 3 pins. We add the 2x2. Down the road, we may even actually add a piece of 1/2-inch conduit instead of dowels into the door, because that actually really simulates well an outward opening door. And yes, our jam flexes, but remember, on your steel buildings, wood buildings that are commercial, their jams are gonna flex. Only on a concrete or a tilt-up brick building are we gonna have a door that doesn't flex at all. And that's why we created the crush prop, because we want you guys to actually see what it's like to crush the edge of a door. And we didn't want you to have to go spend another $2,000 just to buy some little crush prop you stick some little piece of door into. We wanted you to have a full-size door that if you wanted to, after you've crushed it, you can hit it with a Halligan and you can actually spike right through it. These are actually our crush prop straps. And the reason they're developed the way they are is these teeth actually face into the door, and I'm gonna show you how they fit here in a minute, but that's actually gonna push the door into our frame, okay? So they came with 2 of them, and you removed 2 of them. So don't lose the bolts either. Don't wanna lose the bolts. So here's our training door. So all we would do is we would take a real door, so a 36-inch wide, 80-inch tall steel door. We would insert it against here. In this case, we would have to remove the angle strap. So unbolt here and here, move that up out of the way or take it off completely. Either one will be fine. You'll set the door flat against the stops, right? So it'll hit the stops. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna take this, like I told you before, teeth to the door, and we're gonna mount. If you notice on our jamb, you'll see a bolt pattern 6 inches to about here. And then again, it'll be blank through the middle and then it'll pick up again. So we're gonna use both the last one from the top and the last one from the bottom. And we're gonna mount the straps. One's gonna go here across the top, bolt to bolt, and the other one's gonna go in the same location, bolt to bolt. And what that does is it creates 3 different zones for training, allowing you to crush one side of the door, and then a lot of times we'll just take a wedge to help hold that tight on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and crush the opposite side of the door in the 3 positions. When I ask guys at training, how many of you guys actually spiked a door just to know what it feels like? I get a lot of, hey, I've never done that. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's spike the door. Let's see how much effort it takes to get through that door with a spike and then maybe even the adds. Because we talk a lot about this opportunity, right, with Panic Hardware to punch a hole through a door. Well, if you never have an opportunity to punch a hole through a door, how are you going to know what the timeline looks like to get through that door? So we've got to consider, again, back to that training scar piece, how is what we're doing affecting what's about to happen in the future, which is our evolution, our operation that we're going to. I don't think any door prop does a great job at showing a door crushing and then getting the tool around. So this is one of the reasons that we really highly suggest that you get a door and do some crush prop training, because the first part of an outward opening door is getting the tool into position. And this is absolutely imperative that people understand that they have to crush that edge to get around the back of that stop to get the tool in place. The other lesson they're going to learn is how doors react. And what they mean by that is doors are constructed a couple different ways. They're either built and seamed together and welded and then bonded and painted. So you really don't see a weld seam in them. But the other ones in the back corner, they're rolled together. Literally 2 pieces of steel come together and they've got a roll machine that rolls it together. Well, what happens is, especially with a curved halogen, is it can tear that roll apart, and then that curved halogen walks behind there. There's a lot of important training that has to happen right at that minute so people are able to get the entire door captured by the halogen and do it in an effective and quick manner. So being able to do crush prop work is imperative to the first part of forcing an outward opening door. The problem with the spring-loaded system is that it is not difficult to take the tool, put it in, and then turn it sideways, cam on it, and open up that gap. The problem with that is, again, going back to how is the door constructed, if the door is constructed where it's got that back-rolled seam, what we're doing is we're creating a training scar saying that every time I cam down, I'm going to open up that gap and I'm easily going to get the tool around, which is not actually accurate. We don't want you to be able to just cam down and walk the tool around, because that misses a big step about making sure that the tool has gotten in the right position and that the door hasn't broken down.
Can't really see, so you're forcing in limited visibility. You swing a little too hard with good tuned adds, it'll go through your doorstop, and I ended up actually yanking the whole frame out of the building. So on top of that, my halogen was married to this door for the entire incident. So.
Because when the door breaks down, and this has happened to friends of mine, and they're pulling on the door, they're hitting the tool and it's bouncing off, it's because that roll seam has split and they're inside the door. They're skinning the door, right? Or the double weld, because they didn't get the tool in deep enough, the double weld has actually failed and now they've really stuck it into the door. So just being able to cam down and that creates an opening, that's not, I don't want to say it's not good training. I understand the idea is that we're opening up that gap, but the reality is training on a real door in a crush prop is a far more effective and less scar-causing process than when we just cam down on something that spring loads and pushes itself over. I want to talk about our Flex Tech jams. Those jams took us so many evolutions to come up with, and I'm not going to go through the whole story, but let's just say that we bent a lot of jams to get to this place. And so now what we've done is we've created a proprietary metal that allows us to bend the plate. So we're using a 5/16 inch proprietary metal that we bend into position, and that gives us the ability to then flex that jamb up to 1 inch and then back to center every single time. Now, over 25,000 to 50,000 evolutions, you may start to get some arc into it, which is fine because it's gonna keep reacting the same way it does. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna move those door blocks that we talked about earlier over to fit into that gap. So we're constantly keeping a tight gap set. Now that we know how well the jamb works and we know how it operates, the nice thing is there's no moving parts, right? We don't have any springs, don't have any bolts to break. There's nothing that breaks in this jamb. So that thing will last forever. And this is why we've kind of started to call our door a door for life, because this frame system, this door system, is not going anywhere. Literally 30-year career, you're gonna see that at the beginning of your career, at the end of your career, right? And then other nice thing is, like down the road, like I say, 10 years into your ownership of our door, you're like, hey man, it's gotten a little sad, it's a little old and needs a little love, right? So we offer a full rebuild service, right? So we can come in, we'll give you an evaluation, usually at less than half the cost of a new door. You can get your door completely refurbished, sent back to you 100% working, top tier. So really want you to consider that, because that's not something that's offered across the board. And we make sure that these doors are going to continue to be used, again, for your entire 30-year career. Now let's talk consumables. So our doors, you'll see a lot of times the guys are just using a 3/4 inch dowel, right? So this is a 3/4 inch oak dowel. The other option we have is your standard 2x2. We can use both of these, right? So the door allows you to use up to 3 3/4 inch dowels and 1 2x2. Like we've discussed, the other options are we can even use PEX tubing in the doors, right? When we're teaching probationary employees, we're teaching high school kids that are in some type of an ROP program, PEX tubing can help them learn how to utilize the movement of the tools without having to break a bunch of material, and then graduate up to a higher level. And then on the flip side, you have your experienced fire crews and they want to be able to pull an outward opening door. We can go the 1/2 inch EMT, cut 5 inches long with a pair of needle nose vice grips on one end, because once we insert that, what we don't want is that piece of tubing gradually going in further. That's what the vice grips do, is they hold it at the door, or excuse me, at the jamb, so that that piece of tubing will then break. So those are our consumables. We use a lot of the same consumables, whether it be a 3/4 inch dowel or a 2x2. The other option we have is a 1x2, which is what we use in our security screen door, right? Security screen doors are not as difficult as inward opening doors. A lot of them can be simply pulled open. And if you watch any of our training videos, you'll see how we talk about security screen doors. But what I do want you to know is you can put a 1x2 in here, which I think replicates more of what a security screen door feels like, or you can obviously bump it up to a 2x2. But we're using similar non-proprietary, and that's a big deal, non-proprietary consumables. So you can go down to Home Depot or Lowe's and get consumables all day long for our door. All of our systems are designed around the ability for you, the customer, to be able to go get products for your door that do not require you to go get something proprietary from somebody else. That was one of our main goals in designing the door, because we recognize you can spend a lot of money on proprietary pieces that aren't replicating what a real door does. So we also offer a drop bar prop. Now, ours is different than a lot of folks out there. One of the things that I got approached by originally was, hey, we want a carriage bolt cutting prop. And I was like, okay, rad, we'll make a carriage bolt cutting prop. So we put all these carriage bolts on there, and the kids come up and they cut the carriage bolts, and they never know why they're cutting the carriage bolts. I mean, you tell them at some point, but they don't actually have a physical representation of what just happened. So when you do something, you want to see a causal effect of what's happening at the end of the day, right? So when we developed our drop bar prop, you can punch out the carriage bolts or cut the carriage bolts, but they're in the door in a consumable. Here, follow me for a second. I'll grab a consumable for you. So there's a consumable, right? So that consumable gets destroyed, whether it's by a saw or by a Halligan and a flathead. But when that fails, right, they still have to push those bolts through just like you would in a real door, because once you cut them or you start pounding them, you've got to push them all the way through the door, right? So same kind of idea here. You have to push the bolts all the way through. But then actually they have the effect of having a drop bar release. And now they can force the door open. Everything we do here is designed to eliminate the chance of you having a training scar, for you to understand the why behind what you're doing. That's why when you walk up to our door and you see this plate, this consumable plate, and you see a couple carriage bolts in it, and you know you can go after it, that is to remind you when you go to an event and you see carriage bolts in a door in similar locations that you can go after those, and those replicate a drop bar. The thing I love about standalone doors is we can take them anywhere. We've got a wheel system that you can see to my right, and we can move them very easily. So to my law enforcement folks out there, a lot of times when you're going out to training, you need a door that's repeatable. You need something to be able to be mobily moved to a site to execute your training, right? So that's the beautiful thing about our wheel system. It allows you to move our door seamlessly from point to point with a simple trailer and get it there, as well as create not only wheels, but also when you get to the site, you want to create a narrower hallway, limit space. Our wheel systems allow you to do that. The other thing that we realize is that a lot of these indoor shoot houses, they don't have a really high ceiling height, right? Because they're actually, this is where they're doing live fire. But the nice thing is we found out our door can be rolled right into one of these shoot houses. They can flip it up and they can go to work, and they use that, and they can even build simple walls off of it fairly quickly and then get training done. So we recently were in El Dorado County, and they have a beautiful shoot house where they're doing, where the guys go out there and they do their qualification. It's all indoors, right? Well, it's got a fairly low ceiling, but we were able to roll our door right in there, flip it up. They made some quick little walls, and now their guys get to actually breach the door and then push through and actually engage the targets, right? Again, we're doing things that look and feel like real life, so we get used to real life, right? We've got to do the training that eliminates the chances of us having a training scar that teaches us bad habits. So our wheel systems obviously create this mobility to move them anywhere we want to take them. But they also do a great job once they're in place of actually becoming a wall system and creating limited space. So if we want to create these more difficult training evolutions for absolutely no cost, really, 2 pieces of plywood, you can change up the entire training evolution just because you have a wheel system on our door. Sometimes you're going to want to be able to roll that in and flip it up, and then you want to be able to basically mount walls to it really quickly. Well, we create flashings that bolt right into our bolt pattern on both sides, and they allow for these kind of things like a security screen door. So we put flashing on both sides, and you can instantly basically screw right into it either a wall or a piece of plywood that will hold up and create your wall system. So again, we're trying to create pieces of this puzzle to create realism, again, decreasing the chance of training scars, increasing the chance of proficiency. If your agency has a forklift, we have gone ahead and created a forklift header on all of our doors. All they have to do is slide the forks through here and here, go ahead and lift the whole thing up without the extension plates, move it anywhere you want. If you have a tower and you want to create realistic training at your tower, we also have a direct mount. And so what that means is that whether your tower is concrete, it's an old house that was given to the agency, or it's a shipping container, we have an instruction manual for each one with pictures, because I'm a fireman, so that you guys can put these things together. Most of our doors on our direct mount systems outside of our shipping containers are bolt in. So all you would need is a roto hammer and some time, and you can basically bolt one of our doors in, whether you do it flush mount or whether you do it if you integrate it into an opening that's large enough. So lots of options in there for our doors to be utilized in existing training towers or into new training towers as you develop them. So a great add-on to our Catalyst Force entry door is our security screen door. Not only full size, but fully adjustable. So the adjustment for the door, so when I say adjustment, what I mean is to create the tightest gap here between the door and the jamb, I would adjust here at the heim joints. And the heim joints, you have to unbolt them, and you unbolt them one at a time. You take out this 1/2-inch bolt, and then this will actually unscrew out, right, making it longer, which pushes the door over further. We would do the top and then the bottom. that would readjust the gap to make it tighter or looser, depending on how tight the gap is on your door right now, right? So the other nice feature is we have this 2x2 tube. And that 2x2 tube, as you beat it to death, which I hope you do, will eventually get some bow to it because steel gets memory. The nice piece will be is all you have to do is pull your pin's top and bottom, and that will allow you to remove the tube. Once you remove the tube, unbolt this section, flip the tube over, so now the bow's coming out this way, right? Which will put it tight to the jamb again, and then reinstall this and realign it, utilizing a 2x2 to get everything nice and square again, and then you go ahead and get back to work. So by building the security screen door the way we have, and we normally have a cover that goes over here, which is really nice because that cover, having to work around that to pry this door open is really a true evolution when we're dealing with these security screen doors because almost all of them have that lip. So we're trying to make sure we've got all the pieces of the puzzle covered. So when they're pulling this door out, the security screen door out, and now they're facing the inward opening door, it's as realistic as possible. And one of the funny things is, it sounds like a security screen door, right? You can see on this door, we also have a hinge prop mounted on the far right. This allows us to both cut hinges or pull hinges from the door. Great evolution. For some folks, this is a primary evolution when they go to a commercial structure, is they want to cut hinges. We have nuts welded in to the hinge at 3 locations on both sides. This allows us to either use a handle or a standard 1/2-inch bolt to pinch the hinge into place and allow you to cut high, middle, and low. The other nice thing is, kind of maybe not easy to see on this view, but there's a black protection plate right here. As those protection plates wear down from saw work, you can simply remove them and replace them. One of our other cool products is our commercial cutting door. And it mounts onto the door, and unfortunately for this door, it has our security screen door on it. So we can't mount it over the front of this or the door wouldn't open. But if you follow me over to my training door here, if you notice this bolt pattern right here, basically there's no bolts, there's no holes through here. So we just simply use this bolt and this bolt, and we actually can mount our commercial cutting door right here. So this allows us to then, with our door in place, use it as a stand to mount our commercial cutting door and then do some cutting evolutions, which will allow us to get some saw time in. That, along with our hinge prop that we discussed earlier, gives you an opportunity to do 2 of the key evolutions of saw work, which is both cutting hinges and then going after a commercial door. Coolest new thing came out this year because we've been getting our earful, and I had to finally do a baseball swing. So we finally got one done. Hallelujah. And the best thing about it is it really does allow you to swing at the proper location of the door, right? So when we designed it basically to cover here above and here below. So now you can swing high or low, and it uses simply 2 pieces of plywood as your wood backstop, and works phenomenally, right? So all you have to do is put those 2 pieces in. It comes with 4. When we send you one, you get 4 pieces of consumables so you can make templates out of them. And then basically all you have to do is feed them in. And the nice thing about it is that what it requires you to do is it requires you to take off your doorstop, which again, is bolted on. Hey, maybe there's a chance that at this point you've already done a bunch of damage to the back of that doorstop. Maybe this is a perfect time to take it off and flip it over anyways. So we're gonna just take that off. Once it's bolted on, you can literally slide the blocks right into it and start doing baseball swing. It's a really easy prop to mount and dismount, and creates all the evolutions you might want to do when it comes to whether you're going to go high or low. So no limitations with it, and a really nice piece, low cost to create consumables for it also. So we're developing a grid system that mounts to the hinge side of the door that allows you to mount a variety of props to, from hinge pulling and hinge cutting to lock break to lock cutting, rebar tree arms. We also have a through the lock, as well as a doorknob pull. So a variety of different evolutions that can be added into a standard door evolution, right? So trying to cover more pieces of the puzzle that you would encounter with a door, maybe prior to actually ripping that door open, right? You might pop the doorknob off, you might pop a lock out, right? You might do one of those things before you actually force the door. So wanted to incorporate all those pieces into the puzzle. the best thing about our new grid system that mounts to our doors that allows you to add all these pieces to it is that it just bolts on and off with 4 bolts. It bolts basically into the side of the jamb. Once it's in there, you can unbolt it with 4 bolts and the whole thing comes out. We use carriage bolts on almost everything, so it's just through bolted. You need a single wrench and you take the stuff on and off. For our law enforcement, not this door, but our law enforcement door, actually has an increased strike area right here. We don't remove the doorknob and the deadbolt because we want them to recognize that's going to be on every door. So if they're going to hit with their ram somewhere on the door around that, they're going to have to be able to strike that area. So we've made an increased strike area for them, all out of AR-450, so they'll take the abuse. And then on top of that, we've added a 1-inch neoprene rubber pad. And that neoprene rubber pad actually allows you to use sledgehammers on the door. So we have some agencies who are like very sledgehammer heavy, and they want to be able to hit the door with a sledgehammer. So we set it up so they can do that and create gap with a sledgehammer or open the door with a sledgehammer. So again, other options in the space. Now, there are times where we want to go, this add-on we actually call the EOD add-on right now, because a lot of the times this will be used by an explosive breaching team who wants to be able to pull data off of their explosive charges. I'm going to walk you through how to put the system together and onto our door, but the big piece of this to take away is the fact that any door 36 inches wide and 80 inches tall can be added into our door system and forced like a conventional door. What this package will come with is a second set of hinges. So immediately you'll see a top hinge and a bottom hinge here. And those will be mounted right into our existing Callus Force door in the standard bolt pattern in the same place the hinges are actually mounted on the door behind it. Okay? So here's the backer place. This is supporting the door, so now the entire door is being held in place. Now, the door doesn't come with any kind of a brake mechanism, so what we add to it is this bracket to the outside, and this actually, it's a 90-degree bracket, and the 90-degree goes to the back side so it doesn't interfere with the door here. And you have 3 capture points. So you can run anywhere from 1 to 3 captures. So you could add another one here and another one here for literally 3 break points in the door. The easiest way is just simply put that 2x2 in the bracket, set that bracket in place, get it nice and level, and then mark where you want your holes to be and drill your holes. Now what we found is, because the door's set in, sometimes we need a little bit of a spacer. So in this case, we're just using a piece of 1/2-inch plywood as a spacer. And the reason we use the spacer is because what we're trying to do is keep the door tight to the door stop, just like it would be in real life. Once you've mounted your capture on your door and you have your capture mounted onto your frame, all it requires is a 2x2 to be slid in place as a brake mechanism. So at this point, the door is now mounted on the hinge side and on the latch side. This is replicating our latch, and again, we could add an additional latch if we chose to. And from here, you can now do an explosive breach to the middle. You can do a standard breach if you want to practice forcing an outward opening door. It gives you the opportunity now to utilize this door any way you want to, including just doing other styles of breach training like crush prop training, which you will normally do with our crush prop straps, but this is a nice opportunity to actually see a door crush also. And the other thing is that if you don't have access to consumable doors, we have an upgrade with our tactical breacher, and that removes this section of the door and places in place a plate system that allows us to use a 2x6 as a consumable. This allows you to use shotguns, KBTs, kinetic breaching devices, or explosives on the knob. So again, all of the plates that we build are built out of AR-450, so they'll handle all the explosive demo that you want to do on it, but that allows you a quickly repetitive system that you can reload in under 2 minutes and basically run your next evolution. The other great thing about our tactical breacher is that outside of just using a 2x6, what we can do is we can take a consumable steel door. So any steel door that you have that you can get from like R&S Door or any other door company that replaces commercial man doors, you can get doors from those guys and you can cut those doors up into sections, right? So a single door will give you about 4 to maybe 5 sections. You cut that piece out and you literally slide that into our tactical breacher, and then you just drill a couple holes in it, pin it, and you can pin that with steel, and now you can go ahead and use your KBT or your shotgun on an actual piece of steel door. What we found out in testing with this is that a lot of guys had hit a wood door or some wood, like a 2x6, with the KBT, and discovered that there wasn't a lot of kick, right? But when we upgraded this to a steel door, we found out how much kick was really in the KBT. But this is important because operators, when they're walking into these situations, if they haven't had the training, right, and experienced it, then they're not really prepared with what might happen. So flesh this whole thing out. Think about an operator who hasn't actually gotten to pound on a steel door with their KBT, goes in there and it kicks so hard and he hasn't had a chance to practice and get used to that kick, and it busts his hand. And it's his right hand, which is sitting on the trigger, right? That's the same hand that's got to go for his weapon. So again, why are we doing what we do? We're trying to eliminate training scars down the road. This is an opportunity for you guys to get out there with your KBT and bang on some steel doors, as well as use some cheap 2x6s in there and really get some excellent training with that KBT tool, as well as your shotgun or your explosives. The other advantage to our standalone door is that it offers you no trip hazards. So when I was designing the door, one of the things I realized is that guys would be all crowded around the door, and it only takes you to watch other door systems have a couple guys trip to realize that both the liability of getting a firefighter injured in training or a police officer injured in training is a pretty expensive cost. So we looked at options to try and eliminate any kind of a trip hazard. We built it onto a 1/2-inch piece of plate steel that's drilled and tapped, so it creates no trip hazards, right? So you can move across the door and there's nothing to trip. So if you're a firefighter and you're setting up to do an entry, right, you don't have to worry about the hose getting caught on anything around a corner. If you're a police officer or a SWAT team, you're stacking up, you don't have to worry about a trip hazard that's going to cause somebody to take a fall. So they're able to do their job as close to the real thing as possible. As you can see, here's our standalone door, and with every standalone door comes 2 extension plates, which you can see to the left of me. Not only do they come with the extension plates, they'll obviously come with all the bolts, nuts, and washers to assemble them together. Again, this platform gives you no trip hazards. So how do we get away with not having any stabilization other than a flat plate, right? So by using 1/2-inch plate steel, one, we have something that's heavy enough and is also maintains a flatness that sits nice and stable against the ground. Sometimes, and this happens with a lot of doors, is we'll need to put them onto a mat, because if you're on a slick piece of concrete, these doors are all steel, they're gonna slide on the bottom, right? So that's something we have to be able to mitigate. So if we use a horse mat, that's one way to do it. But the other option we have in our main base plate is there's 4 5/8-inch holes that allow you to put 4 1/2-inch anchors into place without having to even move the door. You can drill right through that hole, and then you can redhead that straight into place. And that will securely mount the bottom of the door, which will actually securely mount the entire door. That's all you have to do to mount that thing. So it's another option that you have to basically create a nice solid foundation for your door system. So all of our products are designed to be forced left or right-handed. We can flip this door over and we can put left side openings. So the hinges in back, which you can't see from this perspective, allow you to flip the door from left to right swinging. So if you're interested, if you're concerned that, hey, down the road, I need a left-handed swinging door versus a right-handed swinging door, you can go ahead and in about an hour flip the door around and get it converted. One of the great things about building a door system that is actually modular like ours is that, let's say hypothetically, you guys buy a standalone door like the one you see behind me, and you're using it for a year or two, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, we had a brand new tower built and we would love to be able to put this door into the tower. Well, you don't have to go buy another door. You can call us for a conversion kit and we can convert your standalone door into a direct mount. So there's no other door on the market that we're aware of that actually provides this service, where basically you can convert your standalone door into a direct mount door, or your direct mount door back into a standalone. And we've done this for several customers, and it's been a fairly easy transition for them. So we want to make sure that you understand we are here for you, and we're here to make sure that your door fits into the opening that you've desired it to fit into. Because at Forcible Entry Inc., we build everything here. Like, you're standing in our shop where we fabricate everything. If you were like, hey, we really need to have additional captures, like we want one high, we want one low, and we want the middle captures. All you have to do is reach out to us. We'll customize the door exactly as you need. That way it'll meet your operational demands. So one of the unique things about our door is that we were the first company that went to a wood door. And when I say wood, I mean laminate. This is a marine grade laminate door. And the newest marine grade doors with our integrated AR450 strike plates absolutely will last for the lifetime of a door. So they are super durable. They are really well designed. And since I'm on the door, I'll just kind of go over, we talked a little bit earlier about the doorknob and the deadbolt, right? Those are right in here. You can hit them with whatever you have, including your ram if you want to. The nice thing is the stop is bolted in. Now, if you look at some doors, they're welded in, which means that once the backside of this door stop is curved or worn down from use of tools, you can't easily remove it or replace it. Now, the nice thing about our stop is we can actually unbolt this stop and just flip the whole thing over, and now I have a whole second side. And then here's the crazy thing. You can go grab the hinge side one after that one's worn out, and you put this one on that side. So one of the best things about the Callis Force Entry door is it truly is a door for life. And I know that sometimes we look at this door and we see a lot of bolts, but that means that there's a lot of things that can be replaced if they happen to get damaged, hypothetically. So like we've discussed a little bit about the door stops being replaceable and also being able to be interchangeable, both hinge side as well as knob side. If for some reason parts wear out, and our common parts, and these wears out on every door, but our common parts are typically our door stops. Door stops are where most of our wear and tear occurs, right? By removing 4 bolts, we can take out both door blocks and we can replace them with brand new blocks. We can also adjust them, and after some feedback, we've actually eliminated all the bolts around our blocks. So you'll see this working area here has no more bolts in it, right? So you do have a couple here, but up here and down here, there's no bolts in your way to work your tools, right? Which is super important because this is where we want to be working. But the other nice thing is that means the inside of this door block has now got a mechanism to basically be able to move it over, and that creates a nice tight gap. And that's super important because as we force doors, we don't want a giant wide open gap. And this is what will happen on a door that is all steel construction that doesn't have anything adjustable, right? We want stuff that's adjustable so as stuff starts to move and stretch that we can adjust to it so we can create a tight gap again in the door. The last part that you can replace on our door is our strike plates. So again, our strike plates are AR450. They're recessed or rabbited into the door so they make a nice flush mount into the door. Really good working surface. But if these were ever become damaged, we can easily replace them. Obviously 6 bolts, they come right in and out. So we've spent the last 2 years really working on developing a training library that is fairly robust to cover basically all the operations you can do with the door, whether it be inward opening, outward opening door. We've got cutting props. We've got some cool videos on security screen doors. There's a ton in there. So simply click on that QR code and go visit the training library. But not only is there a training library, if you're trying to figure out how to install any of our product, there's also an installation guide throughout that whole piece to allow you to make sure that when you get your product, you can actually get it installed properly. By providing those things, we feel like we're providing a better service to you, our first responders, to ensure that you're successful once you receive the product down the road. The training library also has a full maintenance section to it. So take your time and learn what the folders have in them. One of the best things about Forcible Entry Inc. is we're a US-based company. And what that means is that firemen are designing this stuff, and we're getting input from our police officers right here locally. it is designed in the US. It is put together by US hands, and it is built and assembled by US hands, and it is shipped to anywhere in the US. When we come up with an idea, we actually all sit down and I'll come up with a drawing, we'll send it out, we'll get it spec'd, and then we'll go and test it. And we run those testings through our breaching and barbecue, which is a great opportunity for us to both meet firefighters and police officers from around the area, but also get their input onto whether or not they feel the product meets the need, and not only the need, but again, decreases that opportunity for training scars, right? Is it realistic? Is it giving them the right feel about how the saw should work or how the tool should work, right? Or does the ram knock through it, right? All those things, we actually get a chance to test out all of our product with our locals through our breaching and barbecue opportunities.